Good evening. Well, I think it's wonderful that we have this opportunity for a final visit before we take off for more travel. And incidentally, I was counting up today, and our travels this year amount to 53,000 miles. And that's a lot of travel. And if you were to wonder why all of that travel, 42 weeks away from home, you might, first of all, think that it's because of the infinite way. And because I want to spread the infinite way or establish the infinite way. And I think that on this final evening you ought to know that that isn't so at all. I haven't any interest in establishing anything like the infinite way, like a new religion or a new religious teaching, or even setting up somebody that ought to be obeyed. I don't have any interest like that at all. I don't expect to leave behind me any religious organization or anything that anyone can join, or anything that anyone can feel that they can rely on for their salvation. If I could do anything at all in my span on earth, I would like to remove from men all the things in which they have faith, and all the things in which they've ever had faith, even that unknown God whom ye ignorantly worship. I would like to cut the ground out from under every single one of us until we had nothing left to stand on or hold to or rely on, until we could feel ourselves falling in space and knowing that we were going to keep on falling for 1,000,000 miles and end up nowhere. Because as long as man has something to cling to, he will not find God. Whether it is a thing or a thought, it is still not God. No one is going to find God while they have anything to stand on, anything to hold to, or anything to think about. It's strange, but it's true. The reason for my travel is that just like you, I knew most of the good things of life and a few of the bad ones, and wasn't happy with the bad ones, and didn't find any more permanent happiness in the good ones. And I wondered if there wasn't something. Oh, I didn't wonder at all. I knew that there was something beyond this. But what is it? What is it that we call God? And is it attainable? Or is that just a vague hope and a senseless dream? Is it possible to know God? My search wasn't any easier than yours is. And it didn't end any sooner than yours will end. But when the answer came, the revelation was something far different than I ever expected it to be, so utterly different that I must be frank to say that I didn't understand it. Just as I've watched in these many years that I'm working in this work, and have noted that very few of our students understand it, except after years and years of being with it, hearing it spoken in 1,000 different ways, reading it presented in 1,000 different ways, and then ultimately it registers with one here and one there, it registers. But meanwhile, it is being demonstrated to a greater extent than it is being understood. I suppose the reason for that is that a little grain of truth is so potent. I'm going to go back and remind you of something you have heard in some of the classes, to the effect that the way that religions evolved was because somewhere back in the deep, dark past, men were running into troubles of one sort or another in their human life. If they were fishermen, some seasons they found the fish weren't running well. If they were hunters, they found game scarce. Some years there was too much rain. Some years not enough rain. Sometimes there were enemies from across their borders. And the strong always overcame the weak. And when the strong overcame the weak, they plundered them. Sometimes they held them in actual conditions of slavery. And even if they didn't hold them in a complete slavery of a physical nature, they held them in a mental slavery, keeping them in as much darkness as possible and plundering their lands. Always the mightier took from the weaker. If the weaker ever became the mightier, they reversed the picture temporarily. In the same way that bullets overcame those who had bows and arrows, and cannons overcame bullets, and finally bombs overcame the cannons, in the same way that one power has always been used to destroy another power, so finally men sought a God who would destroy all their enemies. If you just read the Old Testament, I'm sure you won't have the patience to read it all through, and I won't blame you, but just read a little of it here and there, and notice how many times God was called upon to destroy our enemies. Why our enemies deserve to be destroyed any more than we did, it doesn't appear, except that we needed their land, or we needed their slaves, or we needed their something or other. And because we needed it, of course there was always a God to go to and pray. Pray to God, and God will wipe out your enemies. God will overcome your enemies and deliver to you their property. That's what God is to most people today. Something to go to and pray that it overcome our enemies. Only now, instead of being concerned only with our human enemies, we still pray for God to do that. We haven't overcome our paganism to the extent of fully releasing God from the duty of overcoming our human enemies. We still pray for that. But to that we've added some packages of extra responsibilities for God, like removing our diseases and our sins. Always, always, man has sought a greater power to overcome those powers that annoy him, even to the extent of seeking a God for that purpose. Now, as we've gone on, we have actually in this world witnessed the discovery of tremendous powers greater than anything that was ever expected of God. For we have really discovered material powers that will wipe out our enemies. If only we could get there first with them. We have discovered great material forces. We've even discovered mental powers. But we haven't yet discovered a power great enough to destroy all the other powers that we would like to get rid of. We haven't yet found, either in the physical realm, the mental realm, or the spiritual realm, a power that overcomes all of our sins, our diseases, our poverty, and our warlike neighbors. In other words, the world is still seeking just exactly what it sought before the days of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're still praying to God for the same things that our Hebrew ancestors prayed to, and even before them, our pagan ancestors of other lands. We haven't learned the great lesson that the overcoming is not through power, but the whole secret of the infinite way is based on that principle, that it is folly to seek powers with which to overcome errors. If the world hasn't found it in all these thousands of years, it may be worth our while at least to let the world go its way while we pursue our way, and see if we cannot demonstrate that there are no powers of overcoming. If we cannot demonstrate that life is to be lived not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit. This is the reason I'm traveling, because I believe that there are those who have been prepared to relinquish all of their faith in might and in power, and to learn to abide in the Word. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. The entire Infinite Way message is based on this principle. Not by might, nor by power. Man shall not live by bread alone. The entire principle is that there is an inner grace which does not operate by physical might or by mental powers. It doesn't operate by physical might or by taking thought. It operates only when faith has been overcome. Faith in anything and everything, including that God whom the world is waiting for. 7,000 years of recorded history of waiting. It has a lot of patience to wait without the sign of an answer. There have been many in the history of the world who have known this secret, and each of these has imparted it to a group of people who became their disciples or followers. And in every instance, after one or two generations, the teaching disappeared from the face of the earth, only to be revealed to someone again in the same process gone through. You might ask whether in the face of this, is it worthwhile to teach it again? Is it worthwhile to travel 53,000 miles year in and year out? If a few disciples, a few followers will receive it, demonstrate it, and then let it pass from the earth again? But my answer to that is this, that the circumstances are different now. In all past generations, the world could look forward to the discovery of a greater power than any we know now. And in each generation, some greater power was discovered. But the world is faced now with the ultimate. It can't dream of anything beyond nuclear power. A power that with just one bomb that big, a whole city can be wiped out. Large city, too. Bombs that could destroy a continent as big as North America. It has reached the end of its search for power, and pretty soon it will be ready for this next step. I'm sure that when the great wizard of General Electric said 30 years ago that the next great discovery would be spiritual power, I think he was prophetic. I think that the demonstration of spiritual power will be the next great event on earth. But you see, spiritual power isn't power, it's the lack of power. It's non-power. It's nothing that the world can conceive of as power, for it is not by physical might nor by mental power. It isn't by the might of any material thing or by any mental thing. In fact, it isn't a power that can be used by man. And that's why all those archaic terms like using truth are outmoded. You can't use truth. You never could. There never was a time when you could use truth. That would be like the tail swinging the dog around. Imagine man using God. The thought is horrible. No. When spiritual power is revealed, it will be revealed as it is in the message of the infinite way. As no power. No power that you can conceive, no power that you can think, and no power that you can use. It must be a power beyond power. And that places us in a very humble position. The position where we have to acknowledge, much as the world will hate to do it, I can of my own self do nothing. It's going to be a sad day for the world when it has to go back to the days of Jesus Christ and repeat his words, and this time mean them. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Have you, through your understanding of the message of the infinite way, been able to attain a sense of inner peace and quiet in which you could actually realize that I can of my own self do nothing, and then sit there and let the Father do it? Because that's the goal of the message of the infinite way. To come to a place where you do not pay lip service to the statement that I can of my own self do nothing, but where you come to the place of demonstrating that it is actually true, and then letting whatever it is that's the power of God, whatever it is that is no power that you can know or use, let it assert itself and do the works. You see, you couldn't form a religion around that. You couldn't ask anybody to join that, because if they did, it wouldn't do them any good. And if they paid monthly dues, it wouldn't do them any good. And if they built mighty temples to enshrine this principle, it wouldn't do it any good. And if they built statues of the man who told about this principle, it wouldn't do them any good. That's why no religious organization will ever do any good revealing this message, because this is something that is individually demonstrable, only collectively demonstrable in proportion as it's individually demonstrated. Joining something won't help you demonstrate it. Becoming a member of something won't help you demonstrate it. Paying tribute to something or someone won't help you demonstrate it. One thing alone will. Realizing what this principle is, then taking it into your heart and mind and soul and body. Live with it. Live and move and have your being in it and with it and through it and to it until it becomes a demonstrable principle within you. And then you become the light of the world. Individually. You become the light unto your world, and that may be a world bounded only by your family, by your community, or it may be that your world may take in the whole world. It all depends on your individual unfoldment. No two will be led alike. No two will evolve alike. And possibly there is a plan behind our lives that determines whether one shall live their life just in their family or community, and whether another shall travel this globe. I don't know that. I don't know that. I do know that I didn't choose this work, and that there is something within me that pushes me each month into the next month, gives me what to do and how to do it. And because of that, I presume that that experience will come to everyone in proportion as they can demonstrate, I live yet not I, Christ liveth my life. Now there is a second part of this principle which is equally important to the first part. And I believe it's a natural follow-up to the first part. I said that men have always sought for a power to overcome other powers, but they've sought something more than that. They sought a God who would give them things. They sought a God who would give food, clothing, raiment. The Master knew that. That's why he said, seek not what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink or wherewithal ye shall be clothed. He knew that long before the days of Jesus Christ, men were seeking a God to give them food and clothing and housing and raiment and companionship and supply and good crops, good hunting, good fishing. He knew that men were seeking those things, and he said to stop it. 2,000 years later, the world hasn't stopped it. It still goes to church and prays for the very things that the New Testament says you shall not pray for. Showing that men are still seeking a God to give them things. And failing, just as they failed to find a God who would be a great big power to destroy our enemies. So our second lesson is, stop seeking a God to give you things. People have been trying it for 7,000 years and failing. Stop. If you stop, what is to take its place? The second part of the message of the infinite way which came to me is the same revelation that Jesus Christ gave to you. Seek ye God. not what things ye shall get from God, or what things ye want from God. Seek only God. In one of our recent letters, there is a passage there about God has nothing to give. God has nothing to give. God can't give. If God could give, everybody on earth would have everything. Such is the nature of God. But God can't give, and God has nothing to give. God is infinite being. And besides God, there isn't anything, therefore there isn't anything to give. Therefore, the only thing we can pray for is God. Seek ye the kingdom of God, the realm of God, the realization of God, the demonstration of God. When we, even though reluctantly, give up seeking the power of God, we will find the non-power, which is the harmony of our lives. And when we give up seeking things of God, we will receive the greatest thing, God itself. We will receive God in consciousness. We will receive God in our inner sanctuary, in our inner temple, in the secret place of the Most High, which is within ourselves. But we must learn that the goal is God realization, and not for any reason. And some of you say, but should I not have health, and should I not have abundant supply, and should I suppose so. I suppose so, because I know that you'll have an infinity of it. So it must be part of the plan. But don't hope to get it by going at it the wrong way. Certainly, I do believe, I am fully convinced that the grace of God supplies us abundantly with everything of which we have need, even in what appears to be this human scene. But I don't believe that we have any power to get these things from God. I believe, and I really shouldn't be using that term believe, I know through revelation that when we have God, the actual conscious realization of God, there just doesn't seem to be any pains around, or lack, or limitation. Yes, but we still have families who are sick or poor. Yes, the poor you'll have always with you. The poor in health and the poor in purse. But the only thing to do about that is share with them out of your abundance to the best of your ability. More than that you can't do. You can't ever give them all they need or all they want. That's an impossibility. Because there is no end to what man whose breath is in his nostril needs and wants. But you can share, because until an individual comes to the place of realization that there is no use of seeking things, that the only attainment is the attainment of God realization, he will not be fulfilled. And so it will be that your friends, your relatives, parents, children, brothers and sisters, if they do not open themselves to this, they will continue to know. 1,000 shall fall at thy left, and 10,000 at thy right, shall not come nigh your dwelling place. The only thing you can do about it is to be such a living example of this light that some, at least, will want some of it. And for the rest, do your best in sharing of what you have with those who haven't, because you won't suffer by it. You won't have a lack by sharing. You can only gain by sharing. That's why I travel. I have two things to tell. One is to stop looking for the power of God. Stop looking for some thought that's going to make you well or prosperous. Stop looking for some God, for some mind, for some thoughts, for some truth. Stop looking for it and acknowledge that I can in my own self do nothing, and that nobody ever has discovered a power that destroys our enemies. And rest in this word. Rest in this word that all the powers of this world, the evil powers, constitute the arm of flesh or nothingness. And let them pass from your experience. Let them pass. Don't push them out. Let them pass. They're no good pushing physically or mentally. You'll only increase their power in your experience, or what seems to be their power. Because they haven't a power, we falsely entertain a sense of their power. We entertain a sense of the power of sin, false appetite, disease, lack, limitation. We falsely entertain a sense of power which the thing itself hasn't got. And that's why no power ever discovered in the physical, mental, or spiritual realm has ever been sufficient to remove them. Not by might, nor by... You know, there are two Bible passages that if you lived with, sooner or later, they would give up the ghost and reveal themselves to you. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, and man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of truth. Every time that the thought comes to you, I need this, I need that, I would like this, I would like that, I should have this, I should have that, answer it. Answer it. Man shall not live by bread alone, by effect, by creation, but by Spirit, the Creator, the Word of God. Keep that up until you've overcome your desire for anything that's in the external realm or anybody. Lose all your desire for the visible in the realization that you live not by that which is already visible, but by that which is invisible, and then you will find that that will produce in your experience that person, those persons, things, circumstances, and conditions necessary to your daily life. In the same way, every time you are tempted to think of some power, negative power, evil power, erroneous power, that's in your life that you want destroyed, smile at it. Say, no. No, I have no need of any power. There is a God. I do not know what God is. I cannot know what God is. It is beyond the wildest comprehension of the human mind, or thought, or understanding, or intelligence. And if I could think something that I believe to be God or truth, I would ultimately find that isn't it. Somebody else has thought of something greater than I did. And so it would go unto eternity, until we come to the realization that if you can think it, it isn't that. You know, that comes all the way down to us from 550 BC. If you can think it, it isn't that. How could you possibly believe that a thought of God in your mind can be God? That would surely be localizing it and finitizing it. Solomon realized that even the temple that he built couldn't house God. Not all the world could house it. We build a little dog house up in our mind, or a pigeon coop, and there we've got God up there, because now we've changed his name to mind, or life, or love. Now we've got him anchored in thought, where we can hold on to him in thought. Can you see how foolish that is? Can you see how impossible it is to build a mentality big enough to embrace God? Why, this whole universe of men isn't big enough to embrace God. No, be satisfied to know that God is, that you have the evidence of that, and the life about you, like begetting like. The amount of love that's in a world as loveless as this world seems to be. As much beauty in a world where so much beauty is being destroyed continuously. Oh, there are so many ways in which to observe and to witness that God is, not by knowing God, but by seeing the effects of God. That's how you know God is. The fact that I am is proof that God is. Because if God isn't, how did I get here? Or you? Certainly, we all know there's a God. What God is, we do not know. We do not know how God operates, but we have discovered in the infinite way that God operates in silence. When thought is stilled, when the self is so humble that it really and truly believes that I can of my own self do nothing, and then has the patience to wait for God's glory to be revealed. You see, when I tell this to you, I don't put you in bondage to me or to an infinite way. I set you free from man whose breath is in his nostril. I set you free from belonging to anything or anybody. Free to unite with all those who are on the same spiritual path. Free to share with all those who are on the seeking the spiritual way. But in bondage to nobody, belonging to nobody, owing no man anything but to love one another. That's real freedom. Nothing less than freedom can house God. Don't believe for a moment that God can be in anything, not even in the infinite way. God can't be in anything. And the only way that you can know God is to be free. Be free. Be mentally free. Don't accept concepts of God in place of God itself. Don't believe that in union there is strength. In union there is weakness, unless it's union with God. The only strength there is in union with God, and that's an infinity of strength. But in union of the human variety, that's weakness. Because ultimately, well, you know what we've learned in these wars. Britannia rules the waves and then she doesn't. The stars and stripes forever and then it isn't. We've learned that. These wars, if we've learned nothing else, we've learned that. In all the union that there's been no strength. The only strength there is in our conscious union with God, our conscious realization of the true nature of spiritual power. And when you have that, one with God as a majority. One individual in the spiritual understanding of the nature of God becomes a law of harmony, of health, and of supply onto thousands and thousands and thousands of people all over the world. That's where strength is, in union with God. Well, you see, ever since the French Revolution, country after country has been seeking its freedom. And many have temporarily found what they thought was their freedom, only to find later they were enslaved to something greater than the thing that they broke free from. Freedom isn't to be found from anything. Freedom is to be found in Christ. You can't get free from anything. There are people trying to get free from husbands and wives, thinking that their lot is going to be better. Sometimes it is temporarily. Most of the times it isn't. And even if it is, it's only a human solution. It isn't the permanent and real solution. Because you do not ever get free from. If you get free from one thing, it's to become attached to another thing. The only freedom that results in complete freedom is a freedom in Christ, Spirit, spiritual awareness. That's why to leave one religious organization to join another religious organization is to find freedom from one and get oneself into another. That isn't freedom. No. And so it is, you can't find freedom by leaving one country for another country. Not spiritual. You can improve your material lot. There isn't any question about the fact that the millions of immigrants who have gone to the North American continent have improved their physical well-being, sometimes their mental. But by virtue of that change, they have not necessarily found peace or happiness or safety or security, because those things are not to be found in flags or countries or boundaries or continents. They're not even to be found in health or wealth. They're found only in the freedom which is a realization of no power. I shall not fear what man can do to me. I shall not fear what circumstance or condition can do to me. I shall not fear what infection or contagion can do to me. I shall not fear what weather or climate can do to me. And in that loss of fear, which is the result of having attained freedom, there we find harmony. The letter which you've recently received on the subject of fear should surely show you the nature of bondage, and thereby reveal to you the nature of true freedom. Not exchanging one condition of bondage for another, not exchanging one power for another power, but rising in the strength of this infinite teaching to the place of no power, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit. Not seeking some higher law to live by, but coming out from the law and living under grace, which is the gift of God. Not that God has a gift to give us, but God has the gift of God's self to give us. And that we can attain, and that we can receive. Let us be sure that we are seeking God for God. Because if we have something beyond that, say health or supply or companionship, we're just delaying the day of our demonstration. The only reason we have any demonstration to make is that sense of separation from God. And so when the sense of separation is overcome and we've attained the realization of our oneness with God, we have no more demonstrations to make. There's no disease there, there's no sin, no fear, no lack. All there is for a while, unfortunately, is that picture of 1,000 at my left and 10,000 at my right who won't believe it and who won't accept it and who makes the master say, "O Jerusalem, O Jerusalem, I would take you under my arm, but ye would not." That is the one remaining sorrow after you have attained your freedom. Is to look at your parents or your children or your sisters or your brothers or your fellow countrymen and say, oh, why can't you accept this thing that I have discovered? And then you will understand that it isn't possible for anyone to accept it except in proportion to their readiness for it. And sometimes that readiness only comes because of the futility that has gone before, the frustration. We saw it in the realm of matter, material powers, to overcome our enemies and to give us what we wanted. And not achieving it, we began to search for mental powers. And not achieving it, we sought for God powers. And perhaps it is only to those who have come face to face with the fact that not even God has met their need, that they're really ready to give up all of their concepts of God and say, "God, I know not what you are, nor even how to pray to you. I know not how to go in or how to come out. I know not what to pray for. Let thy Spirit bear witness with my spirit and make intercession. Thy grace is my sufficiency." And stop thinking. Stop outlining. Stop dreaming. Learn to be patient. Learn to be patient. God, I know not what you are, and I don't believe in the God that the world has taught. I have seen the fruitlessness, the frustration. I have witnessed 15 people get healed out of 100,000 who went to your shrines, or the shrines dedicated to your name. I have witnessed the millions who have prayed for their children's release and relief and freedom with no answer. I can't believe in the God of the world. Now I must come to the God whom no man knoweth, the God that is, the one true God that created this universe in its own image and likeness, perfect, harmonious, whole, and who maintains it and sustains it in its infinite and eternal perfection. This God I believe in. Show me thy will. For thy grace is my sufficiency. I will not pray for this, that, or the other thing. I relinquish all desires. I turn my sins over to God. I turn my diseases over to God. I turn my lack and limitation over to God. Do with it as you will. Reveal thyself, for thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy will be done, not mine. Never again will I dishonor God by trying to tell God what I need and then push him into delivering it. Never will I expect God to do my will, or my bidding, or my hoping. Never again will I expect God to be my messenger boy. I place my hand, my life, my being, my body in God. Do with it as you will. Take my sins, take my fears, take my diseases, take my health, take my wealth. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Take it all. Thy grace is my sufficiency. I ask a gift, the gift of God. Those are the 2 points, the 2 major points of the message of the infinite way. You might say, why do I not always make it this clear? Why do I not always present it this simply? Because to those not ready, this isn't clear and this isn't simple. You might show a manuscript of this to some of your friends and relatives and find that they'll call a doctor for you. This sounds to you as if it were truth. This sounds simple. This sounds clear. This sounds as if I should have said it to you 5 years ago, or 7 when I first came over, 6. But it wouldn't have done any good. It wouldn't have done any good. We can only receive it and respond to it at the point of our readiness, and our readiness only comes when we have tried out all the different forms of God that the world presents to us. The religious God, the metaphysical God, the God you can use, the God that demonstrates things, all kinds of gods we try, and then come to the end of trying, and then we're ready for this. We're ready to give up seeking a great power to destroy our enemies or to give us gifts. We give up the desire for that kind of a God, and we rest in this word, God is. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Not by power, not by might. Man shall not live by outer powers, outer things, but by the word. Rest in this word. God is. You see, long ago in your metaphysical studies, you lost your faith in material powers, material means, even material medicines. Now you're taking the next step. You're losing your faith in mental means, mental powers, mental remedies. Now you're coming to the real God, which can be experienced, but not known with the mind and not used. Well, when this trip was planned, it was made very clear to me that it was necessary for me to be here 3 months, but I thought for a different reason. But I think the reason was that this message reach you tonight. That this message reach all of the Infinite Way students in this London area, so that by means of this tape it can go all over the world. And this message could not have come to fruition tonight if all the work that we have done had not preceded it. And so, for all of the lecture work that was arranged by Mr. Eastman, for all of these talks with our students that have been arranged by Mr. Eastman or Mrs. Foster or Miss Salt, for these 2 classes, we have to be grateful to God and for those who made possible through the human footsteps that they come to fruition. Manchester work, all of it has played a part in bringing this unfoldment to this stage. When you hear these London classes, the Manchester class, these tapes of the lectures and of the open class work, you will see why every step was necessary. And then, with that in mind, you will know why every sin and every disease and every lack that has ever touched your life was a necessary part of your entire experience, without which you would not have been ready for the unfoldment of this message. And I say that knowing that some of you have been down, right where sin and disease and lack are greatest. And some of you have not had half that amount to contend with, and some not 1/10. Yet whatever degree each one has had is the degree that each one has needed. Some could not have come up until they went all the way down. Some only had to go halfway down. And some probably never had to go more than 10% down, physically, mentally, morally, or financially. But to whatever degree you and I have gone down, That was the degree necessary in order for us to come up. And so now I can leave you feeling that my work for this year is really complete over here, that nothing can be added to it, and that all that remains is for each one of us individually to demonstrate these principles insofar as God's grace enables us. And here too, some of you will have to be pushed awfully hard into an awful lot of hard problems before you will be able to embrace these principles. And some of you with less, and some of you will absorb it with no problems to overcome. That too depending on what degree of unfoldment you bring to this evening. And so it is now that I'm going to leave you, and I do hope to be back here next year. I hope to be back here every year for the next 200 years at least. Because I did many, many years ago have a talk with my father and tell him that I would like to live to be 200 and then decide how much longer I would like to go on. He hasn't said yet that my time's come, so maybe he means that. Anyhow, that's the way it ought to be. I don't have to tell you of my joy at being here. I don't have to tell you of my gratitude that you are here with me, because all of these things you would never know if I told you. You have to discern those things in your inner heart, just as I have to discern those of you who are honestly, sincerely, deeply seeking the realm of God. And so it is for those who have done the actual work of arranging all of the work that we have, my thanks and gratitude. For all the rest of you, for your generous sharing, for your many courtesies, for everything.